Well, things you end up looking up. The Minoterie Gauvry, a flour mill. In the town of Azenay. Now, there's a long story as to why I am looking at this. So perhaps you should sit down with a cup of tea in one hand and a creme eclair in the other. Well, it is Sunday afternoon and it is stiflingly uncomfortable. It's only 29 degrees, but it's très humide, and we are promised some rather wet weather later tonight. But Sundays, what do we do on a Sunday? Well, some people go to church, and while you're at church you get to meet all of the people you haven't spoken to since last Sunday. And these are good, generous people who give you things. They didn't give me cabbages and Brussels sprouts, I grew them from seed, but they give you tomato plants. You don't need to ask for them. You don't need to walk around saying, if only I had a tomato plant. These good folk plant tomato seeds, pop them all up, and then they're left with plants they don't quite have room for, and they think of you and they say, you've got a big garden, so they give you 4 tomato plants, which is wonderful. I was told what sort of tomatoes they are. 2 of them are big fat red tomatoes and 2 of them are little yellow tomatoes, but which is which we will have to wait and see. And they give you a courgette. Now, this is, again, it's going to be a wait and see thing. What an Englishman calls a marrow, a Frenchman calls a courgette. What an Englishman calls a courgette, a Frenchman calls a courgette. So, we'll wait until it fruits and see what they are. And cucumbers, 2 cucumbers. So that was rather jolly decent of Francois. The walnut tree, incidentally, was given to me by a squirrel. You find them growing all over the place because the squirrels bury the walnuts and forget where they put them. But yeah, that was rather good. 4 tomato plants, 2 cucumber plants, 1 courgette. Anyway, I had spoken... Oh, just look at that wonderful tree sort of thing. That's a betterave. Now, last year, a lady gave a friend of mine about a dozen betterave plants, and my friend didn't want a dozen. In fact, I don't think she actually wanted any of them. So I ended up with 4. And what you're supposed to do with them is as they grow, you tear the leaves off and you cook them the same way that you'd cook spinach. But if you leave them in the ground until they sort of get into winter, then what happens is they throw seeds everywhere and you end up with lots of little betterave growing everywhere, which is good. Apparently they're good for vitamin C and all that sort of thing. But you also mentioned that you are fascinated by all of the different brick factories that used to be in this area. And you mentioned to people that you just find it fascinating. with the result that today somebody gave me that brick, which is Bertol from Tours. Now Tours is just up the road, and that's actually a fairly modern brick. But they also fished out this other brick, which is a bit of a stranger in this part of the world, because this brick was made in Aizenay by the Gauvry brick factory, which is why I was looking at the Gauvry flour mill in the town of Aizenay, which, if I drive flat out from here to there, is about 2.5 hours away. So how this brick ended up in this part of the world, well, who knows.